A brand synonymous to innovation and affordability, Redmi is renowned for delivering feature-packed smartphones that combine cutting-edge design with powerful performance, making advanced technology accessible to all. Announced in China last 2023, the Redmi Note 30 Pro finally made its way to the rest of the world, starting today. Packing an almost bezel-less 6.69-inch AMOLED display, Helio G99 Ultra, and a triple-rear camera system highlighted by a 200-megapixel camera, is the Redmi Note 13 Pro a great smartphone to kick this year off with? Let's figure it out in this full review. In a crowded market where bendy screen foldable smartphones are more prevalent than ever, as a reviewer, I personally still do prefer the more traditional bar-type smartphones as they are easy on the hands in terms of ergonomics, and the Redmi Note 13 Pro is a perfect example of that. With flat side design as well as sharp rounded corners, the device is easy on the hands whether you have small hands or not. Build-wise, the truth is, I am surprised considering how affordable this device is. Buyers will find that they get more than expected. It is made on an aluminum frame with a glass back panel, or should I say we just assume that it is glass. Well, either way, it's a win-win and you get a glass back panel at this cost, or if it is plastic material, it is a well-built back panel that feels sturdy and won't be bending anytime soon. In addition, this device has Corning Gorilla Glass 5 and has an IP54 rating for dust and water resistance. Now, moving over to the rear, we have a very simplistic design here. Aside from the Redmi and this 200 megapixel branding right here, we have a huge camera module as well as the LED flash. But since this is a glossy back panel, it is prone to fingerprints and smudges. Well, thankfully, there's this matte jelly case included in the box, at the very least to remedy that. For buttons and ports, we have a very tactile volume rocker and sleep wake button situated on the left side. And you can hear, it is really that clicky. Dual nano SIM slot on the left side, USB Type-C, microphone, and one of two speaker grills down at the bottom. And up top, we have a 3.5mm audio jack, IR blaster, secondary microphone, and two stereo speakers. The placing of the sleep wake button is at the sweet spot situated in the middle of the frame. For the display, we have a 6.69-inch AMOLED display with a resolution of 2400 by 1080 and features support for an adaptive refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. One thing that I personally like about this device is the bezels. There is no longer a very thick chin down at the bottom, and we have an asymmetrical bezels all around the display, making the viewing experience much more immersive, and in general, it is more pleasing to look at. For the display itself, it's pretty nice. Color reproduction is well balanced, contrast is great, of course it is an AMOLED panel, and it is fairly bright when used outdoors. Dark mode is also present here. There's also reading mode in which turns the screen into a warmer tone, so it's easy on the eyes. There's also an always-on display in the mix for you to take advantage for less screen on time. Overall, I'll give the display on the Redmi Note 13 Pro a solid 9 out of 10. Better than its flagship counterparts? Definitely not. But at the price category that this device is in, the display is definitely worth checking out. For its speakers, we have a stereo speaker setup here, and although it's not the best in its class, it can easily fill up the room at maximum volume. Well, to be fair, it sounds okay, somewhat balanced, but I don't like that there are some instances where it sounds tinny. Thankfully, there's the 3.5mm headphone jack here to take advantage of if ever wireless output devices are unavailable. Unveiling the Redmi Note 13 Pro's camera arsenal, we're talking serious optics here. Well, at least on paper. For starters, we have a beefy 200 megapixel wide PDAF sensor, sporting OIS for that blurry smooth video output, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide for those expansive shots, and a 2 megapixel camera because details matter. Well, I'm kidding. We'll see the quality in a bit. Flipping it around for selfies, and you are greeted by a respectable 16 megapixel front shooter. Camera quality, it's hanging in there. Nothing's gonna rewrite the photography rulebook. Regular shots bring out satisfactory colors. It's not jaw-dropping, but it's reliable. HDR is in the mix, so dynamic range gets a little boost. Now moving over to the portrait mode, again we have to take into account that this is a mid-range device, not a flagship phone. And that being said, subject separations can get finicky at times, especially subjects with complex edges, but still usable for casual Facebook or IG stories. Taking a moment to share some thoughts on the Redmi Note 13 Pro's camera setup. No disrespect intended, but can we address the tiny elephant in the room? The macro camera. It's 2024 and I'm wondering if there's still room for a more versatile sensor in this slot. I get it. Shouting macro lens feels like a premium feature, but as a consumer, I find myself questioning its practicality. What about considering a depth sensor instead? Imagine the potential for slightly improved portrait shots. Or maybe trim down the triple sensors and redistribute that tiny macro camera budget into beefing up the main camera, ultra-wide, or even add a telephoto sensor. Just throwing in my 2 cents for a camera setup that might align better with the evolving needs of users in 2024. But nonetheless, the Redmi Note 13 Pro is not exactly a camera maestro, but it's holding its own, delivering practical versatility. When you are capturing your everyday moments, it's got your back with a solid imaging game. Well, except for that macro sensor. I'm really not a fan. That being said, I'll give the Redmi Note 13 Pro's camera a 6 out of 10. Powering the Redmi 13 Pro is a Helio G99 Ultra processor delivering somewhat reliable performance for day-to-day tasks. While editing a lengthy 1080p video project in CapCut or handling heavy raw images in Lightroom may encounter occasional hiccups, the device seamlessly moves between apps. Gaming is commendable with the capability to run Genshin Impact and Mobile Legends Bang Bang at a decent frame rate, almost consistently fixed at around 40 frames per second even on the highest graphics settings. However, during our testing, slight hiccups were noticeable due to the devices warming up when pushing graphics to the limit. Although this is expected as the processor reaches its capacity, it does affect performance, causing frame rates to fluctuate between 28 to 35 FPS. In terms of benchmarks, if you're interested in numbers, here are they. The Redmi Note 13 Pro handles graphically intensive titles without major performance throttling concerns. There's also an additional 4 gigs of RAM when you enable RAM extension. The Helio G99 Ultra chipset does a decent job optimizing performance, earning the device a score of 7.5 out of 10 in the performance category. An easy-to-recommend smartphone for casual gamers and productivity multitaskers. For connectivity, I hate to break it to you, but we only have 4G LTE on the Redmi Note 13 Pro. For 5G, you may want to take a look at its older brother, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, linked in our review right here or right here. For security, we have an in-display fingerprint scanner, which is a quick and easy way to unlock your device, and much more secure too as compared to the facial recognition, which is also present on the Note 13 Pro and Pro Plus models. Now when it comes to UI, running on the Redmi Note 13 Pro is MIUI 14 skinned on top of Android 13. Upon first boot, we are greeted with several of bloatware pre-installed apps which can easily be removed in just a few steps if you want it all gone. Overall, MIUI is easy to use, especially for those coming from a Poco, Redmi, or Xiaomi devices. You guys will feel right at home, but for those people who are coming from other Android interfaces or even iOS, MIUI is easy to navigate too, with a plethora of customization options baked in. Powering up this device is a 5000 mAh lithium-ion cell, which also has support for fast charging. In our experience, from 0 to 80%, we are getting somewhere between 35 to 40 minutes of charging time using the included charging brick. In casual use, we can stretch the battery to a solid 1 and almost a half day of usage, which is good. But for people who often play games and do heavy tasks, expect to charge it by the end of the day, which in my opinion is still good. We run our standard video loop test and PC Markboard 3.0 test, and here are in conclusion, the Redmi Note 13 Pro could potentially be one of the solid contenders in its segment, as you get a more than average display, good performance, decent camera, and a reliable battery. One thing that we think that you need to keep in mind is that it's still a 4G LTE smartphone. While to some this might not be a deal breaker, but to others it is, especially that 5G is now widely available in the country, a high-speed connectivity that we should all take advantage of. For pricing, for the 8 gigs of RAM plus 256 gigs of internal storage, it'll set you back at 13,899 pesos, while the 12 gigs plus 512 gigs configuration will set you back at 15,999 pesos. But for now, what do you guys think about the Redmi Note 13 Pro? Has our experience helped you decide whether to get one or not? Do let us know in the comments section below. And for those of you looking at this and also recently released Poco M6 Pro 4G and are thinking to yourselves, wait a minute, we'll be coming up with a comparison video of the two on a later date, so stay tuned for that. But for now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit that bell icon so you won't miss any future uploads, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and do visit uedit.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been Arel. I'll catch you guys in the next video.